Hello everyone, today is the long-awaited return of the Cabin Stories video series. This is a series where I sort of tell you the whole story about sort of certain things that have happened to me in my public life while I've been a journalist. I sort of give you behind the scenes and explain sort of what was going on from my perspective. If you're interested in seeing more of these videos, I will have a playlist in the description below where the other two ones of these are released, and I plan on releasing a few more in the near future. Let's just get right into it with the story of how I became involved with CHAZ Shop and the sort of behind the scenes for that. CHAZ Shop, if you did not know, is the Seattle Autonomous Zone. It recently sprung up a couple months ago now, actually. A lot of time has passed since this happened. I was somebody who was very interested in the whole CHAZ Shop thing. I really saw it as the future for this country, and I had a lot of hope for it. However, sadly, things didn't really turn out super well with it, but I'll get into that later. So, at the beginning, when CHAZ Shop first started, was reading about it a lot, and I was deeply interested in it. And I sort of was talking to my fellow journalists that we have on site, and we ended up finding that one of our correspondents, due to the coronavirus pandemic, was actually moved back to Seattle. So, the first thing we did was we sent him on scene to investigate and sort of see what was up. He was nice enough to investigate CHAZ and Shop for us and sort of bring us back amazing photos, amazing stories, and just warm our hearts with the tales of this sort of frontier landscape that was CHAZ and Shop. Anyway, back to my part in this whole thing. The first article I released about CHAZ Shop was actually a travel guide for people who were going to make the pilgrimage, which is a pilgrimage that I was planning on making. However, I did end up having to delay that until later, but sadly later never came. Anyway, so I released on beastfoot.com, link in the description below, a travel guide for what you should bring if you go to the CHAZ or the CHOP. After that, I released a video about sort of the farming in CHAZ and CHOP and sort of the whole story there, which is very interesting to me because if you don't know, CHAZ CHOP had some brilliant urban farmers in there, and they really didn't get enough appreciation. A lot of people malign them for their use of very simple materials like cardboard. But really, that's what they had on hand, and they did a great job with what they had. I think any agriculturalist should really, raise your fist in support of these guerrilla farmers. It's really amazing, in my opinion. Anyway, so I made an article expressing that, and that article did really well. It was one of my first, at least on Beastfoot, because I've had, of course, been working as a journalist for a long time. Beastfoot is my first project, but it's my first big solo project. And for Beastfoot, we hadn't really had a big hit yet. We've been getting some decent traction. A fair bit of views on articles here and there. We'd had some good ones, but this was the first big one that really took off, really took the world by storm. And later I'd find out, and this is something I really don't appreciate, but I find out later that it actually got posted onto a 4chan board, one of the 4chan things. And that wasn't very cool. Anyway, so after this article, I ended up coming out with one more article about CHAZ Chop. And that article was sort of going over the difference between what CHAZ and Chop was because they had to end up rebranding to Chop after the whole CHAZ thing didn't work out with the name. Then I think the thing that I was the most proud of from the whole CHAZ Chop era was my work with Nevile. He's a good friend of mine, of course, and we made a great collab video. I still hang my hat on that one every day because I think it's a great one. So I'm really happy I got to do that. But I'm sure if you watched the last video, you saw a teaser for this video, and I talked about how I became a journalist on the CHAZ Chop Discord server. And that's true, actually. So there was a CHAZ Chop Discord server. It very quickly went from 0 to a couple thousand members. We're talking in hours. And I joined. And at the beginning, there wasn't any journalists. In fact, there's no journalist role. There's no representation. And I got in contact with some moderators, and I basically had to talk my way in there. I had to show them, my work. I had to show them my CV, my res, and they liked it. They liked what they saw, so they let me become a journalist. And then slowly, they were able to start implementing our fellow journalists there also with modded roles and with roles themselves. Anyhow, that's sort of the meat and potatoes of the whole CHAZ Discord server. It really didn't amount to anything because it ended up becoming a hive for trolls, which kind of diminished its role as being an effective news source for CHAZ, because I'd go there and I'd be like, oh, let's see. I'd ask, oh, how are the farms going? How's your crop yield? And I'd get troll responses, which isn't something I appreciated. But what are you gonna do? I mean, that's the struggles of being a journalist. It's hard to find, who is a genuine person who's at a place like CHAZ or in an affected area, and who's a person who's just pretending to be there for your attention. It's a struggle. But overall, I would say the reason that CHAZ failed, and the reason that CHAZ sort of fell through the cracks, was it didn't have the support it needed from the greater community. I think a lot of people sort of abandoned CHAZ very quickly, and as a result of that, uh, it lost the people it needed to run it, and it's sort of a sad thing, because it was really our only last good shot at making America inhabitable, right? with this crazy police state we're living in now. This was the last hope for a place where we didn't have to worry about police constantly looking over our shoulders, constantly making us live in fear. It really was a beacon for so much good that I want for this country, but it didn't end up adding up. Anyway, I hope that explains a little bit about what had happened in the CHAZ Shop community, and sort of my role in the Discord server, and my role in reporting on it. And I would like to thank all of the brave men, women, non-binary folks who were at CHAZ and who remained when it became CHOP, and who stayed strong throughout all that and fought for what they believed is right. Because even if, sure, the dice didn't land great this time, what you did had an impact on a lot of people. I mean, it had an impact on me emotionally, because I saw that even if CHAZ and CHOP didn't go for the long haul, at least there was some hope for people in this country starting something and people actually still caring, right? Because if people could care about CHAZ and CHOP, and if people could care about the articles I was writing for CHAZ and CHOP, then that meant that maybe, just maybe, with enough work, people can care about this country enough to actually fix the damn thing. Anyway, I hope that was enlightening. It's been another cabin story video. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye. Oh my god, this is a story about our Minecraft server and how it got raided. I mean, we ended up spending over $1,000 on this thing. I'm pissed at MC Pro Hosting, and I'm pissed at Mojang.